Okay, so lecture 5, we on obviously not iOS. Teaching iOS is really fun. I miss it. Maybe next time you guys come back and I'll teach live streaming. And
that's what I asked you.
Yeah, or you can, even better, you can be my TA and learn at the same time. Right, so no, it's good. It means I can teach you and then torture you at the same time. This guy has come back to be tortured. So it's okay. Lecture 5. The first thing that I want to teach you is this real-timeness. Good question. How did the chat thing work? Right, when you have user A. Here, user is more like you open browser and there's a browser section, right? Browser session. So I call browser A, B, C. They open 3 browsers and then you send the chat messages. Is that all right? So what happens when A types something and then press enter? What happens?
They create a new thing, right?
Browser A sends an HTTP post request. Okay? To server. All right, let's say server A. Let's say we have just one server. And then what happens? How do B and C get the messages? Browser B and C refreshes, right? Every 2 seconds. And when they refresh, and what happens? Server so it means requesting, right? Also post request, Ajax post to server, not Ajax, this time Ajax get, right, to server, and server respond, right, with new content, latest content, and then what do you still need? Like browser B and C use JavaScript to update its content. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So this is like a super basic way to do it. And it's okay in many situations. So what we learn is that can this be simpler? Right, so who can give me long review? Can you give me the scenario if we use socket? What happens?
It's the middleman.
Okay.
But like every browser will open a socket and listening to requests.
Okay, so let's say browser, basically user A, B, C, right? Basically send get, submit, right? Get to C messages. So now they're in the chat room, right? In the same chat room. What happened next is there's also browser A, B, C subscribes to a WebSocket. So in addition, this is HTTP, right? At get here is that HTTP get with server. So you need one condition here. Server, instead of server opens port. Server hosts both HTTP and WebSocket connection, so you can receive, right? WebSocket. So what is interesting here? This is called subscribing to the WebSocket channel. Browser actually don't talk directly to you, but when the browser runs, it's like, I have some message in this channel, and then when you load the browser, it subscribes to me. So let's improve this process, right? And if you look into the Rails guide, let's implement the lab. Can you raise your hand if you did the lab, this part? Who did this one, this milestone? All right, this is not ideal. This milestone there's some stuff that is not good about it. It's intentional. So we will make it better as well. Let's do it together, right? So now you're going to do it together with me to consolidate our understanding. So what do we have so far from my last lecture Nothing, I just have some refreshing method. And now if I run the Rails server, let's open two server here, right? And let's put this guy at the bottom left and this guy at the top left, right? So we both join the same room. I turn off, oh, I think I didn't, right? I did something just, Who's calling this thing? Who's calling that? Let's look into the room. What file should I look at? Messages index, right? I don't want this thing. There's no more updating bullshit. Let's do something better and refresh. So I should not have any more thing. This thing should be. Why do I have a cable there? Nothing. Not sure why I have that cable thing. I think Rails is a little buggy. So I prepared a little bit first, and it had the WebSocket stuff. Right now we don't have. We're going to add it. Okay. All right. Wait, why is it here? There's still cable. We don't have. Do you see it? Nothing, right? That's kind of strange. Okay, so this is the interesting part. If you type something here, now we made it a little faster. It goes to the controller create.js and it updates this page without leaving the page, right? That's just a nice JavaScript touch. But what is exactly it's doing? It's send right now create. It actually send HTTP, what's that, post request, create message here with socket. Let's do the stupid way first, which is it still go to the routes and go to the controller and then render back. And then we use socket to update the other browser, okay? So we only use the socket to update the other browser. That's step one. That's in the lab. Step two, why do you use controller at all? You should just go to socket and then socket just go here. So it's skip all the Rails controller and view.
So we insert it to the other way in the socket.
Yeah, so the logic can be in there. So let's do one step at a time. I want you all to follow me and stop me if it doesn't make sense. Let's go to this lab. You guys read this over here, and we know that instead, in addition to this HTTP thing, we actually have a WebSocket connection that's maintained. Now Redis here is something extra when you push to production. Any subscription between the client, 1,000 client and this Rails thing, it just goes through a database. It receives the messages and it's more scalable. You cannot rely on this one server to handle all the socket messages fast. So what's the first step that we do? Rails generate, who knows what to do? Rails generate channel, right? So you read this one, I will generate channel. So if I just do this messages, right? Okay, what are the files that are added? Channels, this is like your controller. So now socket, it talks to your channel directly, right? There's no route, it's just this channel thing. But this is browser side. What is the client side? Where is it? In assets, JavaScript, and channel here. So the client actually the logic is here. When the browser need to receive anything or send something, it's on their channel, right? If the browser handle anything on the server, it's on this channel.rb. Okay, so let's test something. One thing you have to do is to mount. You need to mount it to your routes. So Actually, that's not the right way to mount it. Let's mount it the simple way. Do I have the instruction here? All right, let's mount it here. So that's kind of strange just now when you run this ActionCable thing. I still have some browser tab somewhere, I think, that try to connect to that. Okay, I have ActionCable mounted on this. That's a WebSocket. So let's close these guys. Okay, so go here. How do we know when this WebSocket is open? How do you test the most basic thing? Okay, so you see you have this messages thing. You go into this messages channel and you have this thing. So the first thing to do is just say connected. Down here you say disconnected. And down here then you say received data. So if you refresh this, it says connected. If you refresh this one, okay, it says connected. How do we send a message from here to here? Okay, so what is that syntax to broadcast? What's really cool, this app.messages. So you can type, it's a little hard to see here, but app.messages. Now you have this. When the browser render, it creates a consumer and then it subscribes to this channel. Okay? There's no params yet. This is like a controller, right? But there's no params. There's strictly just a channel here. And if you click on this, you say, okay, it has this information. There is one cool thing, is that we can send some data. Now, how do we do that? I think so. You can perform an action. Okay, so I'm gonna say my action or something like that, and I send some data. Right? Let's say data 1. I don't know. And if I do this, it sends something to the WebSocket. You don't have to use perform. This is like a private action thing. So when you say perform my action, you see what it does? It tries to run the action method in messages channel. So to make this work, where should you implement this? Channels. All right, let's try it. You see you have subscribe and unsubscribe. First, in order to receive anything, you actually have to subscribe to the same channel. So when you run it, this guy is actually already subscribed to a messages, sort of the name of the channel. So here I have to enable this. And then down here, I can call something like my action. That's not the right name to call it, so I'll just say test, and maybe I'll just rails.log. Is that the right thing? So testing, and then pass in the data. Okay. So because it's channel, you actually have to restart the server. So you see that as soon as you terminated the WebSocket, it's just disconnected, right? That's cool. So message channel is streaming from messages, and when you load this, try again. You load this, all right? It send an HTTP request, and it also say it's subscribed, create a consumer token, and then it can stream. Now I'm going to try again, but this time I send a test action, and then maybe I have this message, say hello, right? So what's happening there? It goes to test message hello, right? and then it sends some extra information here. It's quite funny. I actually have an error in it. I can't call Rails.logger. This is bad. My Rails is rusty. It should call like Rails logger. Now, but do just say something. So now we know that Rails the server receives something. Every time you write something from the command line like this, you're not sending an AJAX request, you're just sending a socket request, right? This is a socket request. So Rails receives something. Now I want to broadcast to everyone else. How do you do that? Here, you say ActionCable.server.broadcast. So we need to broadcast. Now this has to be the same name as this. Okay? And then I say, this is the message of the channel. So I'll keep it as, okay, it's a little confusing, chat message or the socket message. So let's, accept that that's a little confusing for now. It's not, it's not a big deal. You'll get used to it soon. We're doing error-driven development anyway. You can always fix the error. So if I send hello now, you see what happens? It sends hello, and then it's sending back to all the clients that are open. So you receive it over here. You receive an object. How does this receive work? I send server broadcast. Now you have to look into the client side again, right? Uh-oh, not this one. App, JavaScript, channel, messages, right? This receive. It's cool, right? So you actually receive stuff here. Okay? So if I press something down up here, so instead of sending it from the console, I'm going to hide the console. Okay? And if I press something, I press enter, instead of using a form, I can get rid of the form. I just send something to the WebSocket. Let's do that. Okay? So go to messages index. You don't need any of this anymore. You just need a freaking text field. So text field tag, maybe content. Is that okay? And it's no more remote or anything. You can even use regular HTML. And then there's a button, submit tag. Okay? Does it look right? Messages, I just need a div here, right? Okay. Now obviously if you press anything, this is bad. I'm not sure why it submit. Why does it submit?
You're in the room. You're not in the message. You're in the.
Oh yeah.
Huh?
Go back.
Okay. Right. I was creating a room. Whew, thank you. So there's a bit of, when you switch to tag, this one you have to pass in the value. So it's currently nil. And obviously if you press enter here, it doesn't understand. There's no form to submit. If you click here, it doesn't have a form. So how do we do it? I'm just going to get rid of the send button as well.
Enter. Yeah.
Okay, so you have to bind it to the enter thing. So we're learning a bit JavaScript here. So another way is also to bind this button. Depends, right? You can bind when the button is pressed. When it's click, you submit the content. That's the easiest. Another thing is binding with this content. So I go to messages. Now jQuery one more time. This time I delete all of this. I mean, you can just put it down here. Let's just comment them out. I don't need them, right? Sorry. Fat finger. Okay. Up here, what do I need? So you want it to be after on TurboLinks load. After you load the whole thing, and you can say something like setup form message setup chat, something like that. And my setup chat is quite simple. It's a function setup chat. If anyone, did I put in here on? Did you do this one? you're going to bind if there's an enter key pressed. So like, all right. So if what's the you need the ID of this content. So get the content here. Message content. So let's real quick. jQuery bind, enter key input. Right. So when someone press something, then you can bind it on a key up. So let's say input content. Is that the name? One more time. Mouse here. Message content. Right? Dot key up. Then the key is released. So function, and this is usually just the event. And then you check if the event.key here, right? So using this, what key is pressed. So I'm going to test slowly. I'm just going to say log enter is pressed. Does that make sense? So obviously you can also say console.log setup chat just to make sure that this is run. Okay. Now go back here, run this guy. Setup chat, right? If I press this and then I press enter, nothing is going to come up. Now we have to troubleshoot. So then you say key message content. Make sure it runs, right? Message content. Make sure it finds the input. It's there, and then you sort of key. What key is pressed? Event.reach. You can actually pass in the whole event so you can see. Okay, press any key, nothing happened. Why?
Messages contains, not message contains.
Huh? Uh-oh.
Messages contains.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Did I type? This is correct, right? Oh no. You're right. Uh-oh. This is just content. It's not message because remember, so here, the ID is automatically this guy. Earlier, if you do f dot thing, so it should be content, right? So it should just be content. If you want to be more specific, this is input content. Okay, we're confident this is good now. I didn't refresh the browser just now, so press any key. That's a key. Type key up, and then there's a key code. A is 65, B is 66. Enter is pressed. Awesome. So we need something meaningful in here. We still follow, right? It's like, okay. So app.messages. Remember the guy that we used to send the messages. Here, perform test. Okay. So technically, you can say app.messages.create. What are you creating? You're creating that input content. So you see, I can just set up this element E to be, this is still a variable, okay? Input content, so content. Okay, so here it's just the same guy. I'm just, I don't want to type the same thing again. So what are you creating? Message is E.value, right? So you just say, I create a message. And you just send that message. So
it's the message.
Yeah? What?
Your message inside.
Exactly. Just testing here. Okay? Okay, sounds good? Obviously, error-driven development. When you do this, what happens? This is actually as you become an expert programmer. Like when you do this, you write a test for it. Obviously, I need to implement this create method. So where do I do it? JavaScript channel. Here, you have 3 messages thing here, right? This is nothing. It's just extending a class app.messages. So you can call app.messages.create function, and you pass in, what is the thing here? Maybe message text. Okay? So then you can do something simple like creating and then message text. Let's see if it's gonna call the right thing over here. So let's try that. JavaScript is tricky, right? It's easy to make error. Under messages file here, I made a mistake.
You forgot a semicolon on top function.
The comma, right? Oh man, it used to be fun when you do CoffeeScript. So A, B, C, D here. Let's not print it. Enter, and then it goes here. Create ABC, right? Now we really need to create this guy. How do we implement this method? Here's the cool thing, right? You can actually implement the create method on the backend app. What's that? Channel, messages channel. So instead of actually, let me see if this to give you guys an idea. If you remember, I have this test data thing. When I do app.messages.test, why does it not work? Huh? Was I able to do that just now? Oh, you have to do perform. Right. So here I'm actually just gonna call this .perform. It's just itself, and I perform create, and I say this is like message. What's that? So I'm passing the data. So I need to pass a hash. So this data maybe like, I don't know, action is create, and it's already create. So I just pass the message text. Okay? Does it make sense? It called perform create. It means you need to have a create action here. Okay? And remember, we have Rails logger thing. So logger dot here I need to. Sometimes you can actually set like the debugger here to test it. I usually do it this slow way so I can understand things. I'm just gonna try maybe log the information out. Logger dot info. This is data, and I'm going to broadcast everyone. Okay, right? Creating this message. Okay, so and let's remove the JavaScript thing. Let's remove the enter key here. Don't print it every time. That's confusing. All right, go up to this guy, and this will happen a lot. Your JavaScript if you use a better editor, it actually highlights the problem for you. This is not Ruby, so it's not as straightforward. Okay, so if I type hello, let's see what's happening here. I type hello, the server receive hello. You see this data it's under, this data is rails.logger. Now just stop for a second, make sure you understand this. This line, right? You have an action create and message hello. What is that action create? It's automatically passed by this perform thing, right? It's performing the action. So you create, you type hello. It's used. What line does it use to send to this? Let me load the. I need another window here. Maybe make it bigger here. Okay. So in here, there's a JavaScript messages here. All right. So when you press enter, it calls app.messages.create. So it sends that information, and then it goes to the messages channel thing because you define this create method, right? You go to this create method, you actually call perform create action, sending the data. This is quite stupid. I believe it should be automatic, but I'll have to check. Now, when you call perform create, it's like now talk to the server, and the server broadcasts to everyone else, including myself. Yeah.
Do you see that line on the Rails logger.info?
Yeah.
Where does that, is that on the server right there? It's providing you information on the server? Like on the terminal? Is that why that line is being shown?
Right. So because this is a good way, another way is to use the debugger, and you stop here, you can check anything else that's printing out. A quick way here is I say rails.logger.info. It printed the log. It's also print to the this is the server log, but this is standard out. If you look into the Rails production log, you also see it. But this is very useful because you make sure you know what this data is, right? Because you see I'm passing data here. It's not right. What should I pass? Data, message. Well, I'm passing the whole thing, but these guys all get this in return. Okay? So now you know that, it's actually now quite easy to write a script that when you receive, how do you update this here? Okay, who can do this for me? One more step, and then when you type hello here, hello will show here. One more step, and we will simplify it. Where's the client? Up here, and inside here. So now if you say receive data here, right? Data is, what is data? It says receive, and data is this message. Now I shouldn't call, no, this is not good, right? I have this whole string that is useless. I should pass this whole thing as data. Yeah? Okay, now let's try one more time. This is message channel, so you need to restart. Just be careful there. Restart the Rails thing, make sure now you run both of these guys. Alright, look at the receive, because we care about receive now. I type something up there. It's a lot of things that happen. I say hello. And then it sent, and then this guy, you only care about this guy. You press hello, you see that this guy received. Okay? So what should you do? Go to receive over here. Okay, who can implement this? If you have copy script, you can use case statement. Data dot action equal. Okay, so a little bit of JavaScript here. Create. Then what do you do? Yeah. Okay. Now everyone's like expert in JavaScript now. So just append, and then what do you append? Div class message plus what? Data dot message plus. Is that good enough? Is that good enough? Huh? Okay, yeah, let's forget about username for now. Okay, so if I do this, do you think it will work? If it doesn't work, probably just some stupid mistake, right? We only update the JavaScript side. So, hello one more time. And you see this hello. So what is one thing we can do to make it better, make it less stupid? Good point. Update to show user. So do you have to update this append statement? Well, I need this to look better, right? It has to look like this has to come from this user. So how can we I was asking what can we do better, but I already answered for you. You need to add the username information and everything in here. How can we do that? Could just we run into the same problem with the JSON approach. We duplicating the rendering logic. Okay? So how can we do that? If pretend I just say message, whoa, in here I just say message HTML. Isn't that awesome? If I can just do that, then it's just append, right? But what is this message HTML? Then I'm going to send this message HTML instead of the message text. Okay? So let's call it maybe message, just message, but it's actually message HTML. Okay, maybe just make it message HTML. Alright, now let's work backwards. This is message HTML. So where should I have the HTML? Where? We are broadcasting this guy over here? Okay, so what is this data now? You data.inspect, data is hello and action is create. So you want this to be data is a hash, right? Data.message HTML to be div class, let's just make sure it's easy to test. Okay, so data, this is quite tricky, huh? I mean, it's like, is it string or symbol? Is it string or symbol? I'm not sure. So I'll test it anyway. Create, what should it be? Message? Okay? Does it make sense? And then you pass in the data. So I have message HTML. Let's see if that's correct. Refresh. Now, obviously, this is, I might have to refresh the channel. I think I have to refresh it. But anyway, it go in here. Yeah, data is nothing changes. Well, cannot execute something there. What does it say? Oh, it does reload. That's good. I think this you have to make it into a string thing. So it's not as smart as the params stuff.
Maybe because just a message.js, not .js, so here
Message dot what?
No. Okay.
Okay, let's try one more time. Refresh. And then hello over here. Works, right? Okay, there's something else though. So if you look at this, you're like, but I still have to render my message here. Where's the render code that I already have? Yes. Huh?
The partial.
Yes. Can I call partial here? Which is crazy. Yeah, like this is a channel. Where can you call render partial? In the view, right? So in Rails 5, only in Rails 5, you can actually call render anywhere. So, I mean, they run into this problem and they decide that, why can't I just render this thing anywhere? So let's try to render it anywhere. Go to Rails console, let's practice our kung fu, right? Render. So it's actually, there's a method called render. Okay. If you, it's not this, huh? Application controller. Are you sure? Oh yeah. All right, dot render. Cool. So now you can say render partial message. Okay. Now if you call render by like this, it doesn't understand it's a partial. It thinks it's a template. Okay. Missing template. But if you say partial, this is the long form. Remember my lecture 2, I give you guys the partial. And then when you use the word partial, you have to pass in the local variable. Message.last. Is that okay? This statement. It still failed. You know why? It doesn't know where it is. It thinks you put it in message. You have to tell it the path. Okay? So I just copy this. Okay, this is what I expect down in this message channel. So I have a private method, render message. How do you render it? That's it. That's my message, right? So now in create, I can just broadcast. What should I broadcast? So down here, this just be render message. Oh man, now I need my message ID. Wait, what do I need? You know, see what happens here? What do I need? I need a message, right? But what is my message? Exactly. So here is what? Body or text. What is the schema? Oh, it's content, right? Let's look at the schema, messages, content. What is my content? Data, message, and username. Now it's a little hard. Huh? Username. What is it? So if you pass from the form that is not really real username, anyone can fake it. Right? This is a little tricky, so I'll get to this later. But let's, and then you have to support room. That's another thing. Okay, if I try to create a message right now like this, right, and then I render this, do you think it will work? How can we verify? It sent data back here. Where's the guy that render? Asset, JavaScript channel, messages. So it render this. Is it okay? And we are actually printing it out every time. So let's see. All right. What's up? And then it say here, what's up? So it rendered properly. So we use some logic. Now it's super fast. Now you have your real-time thing. Okay, what else do we need to fix? Should we fix the username first, or should we fix the something else? Username first. So if we look into this thing, it's actually not simple, because when you're in the browser, you have a thing called a browser, and the HTTP thing. There's such a thing called session. Yeah, but the socket connection, there's no session.
So what's the point of
I'm sorry, this is such an abstract.
No, absolutely. Any.
What's the point of doing all this if we can just send a HTTP GET request? Because I feel like we're adding so much code, you know what I mean, in channels each time, right? Because like just thinking about like room IDs, and then when your app is way more complicated, it seems like it's a lot of extra code.
So who has the answer to that?
subscribers? Remember, you have to deploy the time.
This is powerful, right? You don't send an HTTP request. You send something really small, just a small bit of text over a WebSocket, which is another server, not a HTTP server. And you can use it just for even presence, like user go online, offline. You can send it over here. We're using it for just sending messages.
I remember you saying that like whenever we do the whole JSON thing, it was still also a very small request.
It is true.
No, let me explain to you, because like if you send a request, you send something like HTTP request, which is expensive. The post, I mean, in personalization is a size of the request. It could be small, but actually when you send an HTTP request, this will require like something like open the connect, request to server check. It's like I don't know, but it's SAC, so request and server response, stuff like that. Here you're sending something like a tool like your own part, so it's in small, and actually it's like it's more useful in a real time rather than sending HTTP. Let's imagine you have a million users, so they're sending million HTTP requests. It can be like a damage server. With this and this.
They're designed for different uses. HTTP, you open a request, you send, and then you close it. It has to be short. So you only have, let's say this is like a post office, right? Like I have only 5 people who you can go to me at the bank, right? At each time I need to finish the client as soon as possible so I can take the next one. So that's the whole point. You want to scale. Every time you visit the page, it has to finish the request response cycle very fast and get back. Now WebSocket, you don't have to open, or you just open once and the connection is there. It's always open. So then you can just send something, and it's real time. Also, it's fast.
So okay, so the difference is the socket is just basically like you have the server and the client have an open line of communication with one another at all times.
HTTP, I'm the server, you're the client. I cannot talk to you. Only you talk to me, and I answer. WebSocket, you and I already can look at each other here. Then I can wink, and you can see right away. So that's the real time thing. The other one's fake real time. You have to keep checking from me every time. Okay. Now it's important to understand the session thing. I included this note in one of the earlier, I think was it in lecture 2 or 3? How does lecture 2? How does Rails session work? Right. So in the past I actually covered that, but this time for the simplicity, I just encourage you to read, identify. We have the cookies from the browser. It will send back to the socket, but the whole thing is not decrypted into a session. Cookies stored on the browser is encrypted. Session is what you decrypt from the cookies, and it's on the server side. Okay, so for most of your application, you actually do this. Like in device stuff, what it's doing is it trying to it get the cookie and it perform the decryption right here to get the user ID. So we can try that. And the way to do it, instead of the current there's a current user method, you still have to have a current user method, or here you can actually set it as a sort of a local variable, and then you set identify by. So this is how we get the current user. Okay, so maybe I'll update the lab for us to try this. We can move on to the next problem. What's another thing we can improve with this messages thing? Someone said room, right? The chat room.
I think you still get the message if you go to the lab.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going really slow here, so we can make compromises when we want to. If I have little time, I don't care. I receive all the messages. Okay? It's not until I have 1 million users. Pretend all the users are the same. But I only update the messages in my room. Does it make sense? So when you engineer, don't worry so much. You basically now, remember, where is this one over here? Right? You can actually check. You send in, there's this message. If you send in the entire, you can actually send in here, for example, data, room ID, right? And you know the room, and you only update it in your room. You don't update, so you still receive the update, but you just don't update if you're in a different room than the public room. So that's the stupid way, right? It will work for most of the time. But this is gonna be tricky. I don't like ActionCable that much because stream from messages. So if you only want to stream for one channel per room, how do you do it? This value has to have the room name in it, right? Holy crap, that's hard. How can you do that? Okay, so let's try it. Message room and pass in here params room. Okay, let's try. Let's try this, right? Now let's real server stream from this thing. So you see, there's no ID yet. Okay, I go into the messages. No, not this one. The channel thing, right? Here, this is the default, the first argument. When you override this, there's a way to pass in. Because okay, let me very quickly show you to prove to you that. Look down here, okay? App.messages. Understand the structure. You see this identifier channel, message channel. This identifier comes from the first argument. And so when you write this messages channel, it's actually the same as channel, messages channel. Like that. So it's like controller action thing. So I do this, it will give you this structure. If I do one more thing called room, say if I supply to the public room. Okay, so I do something stupid first. So then I reload this guy. Did you guys see this? Public? Yeah? Okay, but there is something really wrong here. Does anyone know? This guy is in a JavaScript file. When you push your code, all of this get compiled and just make it shorter, and it's you know, it will look the same for all the pages, right? Can you put the room ID in here?
So anyone can join any channel. Right?
Every this is public.
Huh?
Is every room going to be public?
Does what say? No, exactly. So there's a problem. How can I have a different room each time? How can I do it?
Get from checking URL.
Checking URL, get from, yeah, exactly. So now it's a little tricky. Let's see. If I go to messages here, so now in this messages list item, okay, so I have this, I display this list group. I also call them messages, okay, and then maybe data room ID. What is my room ID? So just room.id. Is that okay? I just refresh this, check my messages. I have, did I save it? Oh, this is home. Whoops. Messages index. Down here. All right. So data room ID is room.id. Okay. And we refresh this. We look at this guy over here. Room ID 1. Okay, so maybe you can have like room name, and it's like that. Okay, great. Now you have this. How can you fix this guy? Now I do something like function, set up room, right? Subscription. How do I type it? Set up room subscription. So I have this function, and I actually I pass in a room ID. Okay? Okay, can someone guess it already? Then this room you can just pass in room ID. Is that okay? When do you call this? When do you call it? Document on TurboLinks load. It just means that when the whole document is ready. Function. Now it's a little hard. Who can write this part for me?
Use jQuery.
Get all the messages element. Huh? So you only need to find one actually, right? There's only one messages here. You can actually create another div here. It's like a room ID thing, but I just assume I only have one, so I only define app.messages once, or only once, okay? So this is your div, messages div. What is the room ID now? Messages what? Dot data room. Is it just room or room ID? Room ID. Then you have to, of course, make sure you print it so it's easy to read. And now you can call this crazy thing. Okay? Does that make sense? Where? Oh yeah. JavaScript, actually the semicolon is optional, but you should always post just in case. Alright guys, have you seen any changes? It just means that I only subscribe at the bottom of the, after I render all HTML5 text. In the past you run it, TurboLinks load, the header, and the head of the document, the JavaScript is in there. Alright, I go down here, I get the room ID, and then I set up the chat, and then it's connected. And then this is subscribing to room 1. Okay? So it means now, I am in, this guy is subscribing to room 1. This other guy is also subscribed to room 1. Let's open another, maybe now I need a different browser, Safari. Here, localhost, go to another room, right? Subscribe to room 2. So what happens when I say hello over here? We don't know yet, yeah? Hello? Well, is it? Alright. No one's getting updates. Why? We still need to update a little bit more. So, alright. You need to see someone is still subscribed to the messages thing in the past. So see hello here, enter press reading hello, and then you go to the broadcasting. You see this one? Broadcasting to messages, blah blah blah. This is the wrong room. Messages. So where is it? App, channel, messages. Where? This one, right? And oh, we didn't do Rails log. We don't. So we need to pass in the room thing here, right? Yeah. So there's a faster way, but let's just do Rails logger. Let's do it one more time here. Function. Why did I have this here? Okay. So you can dig in and then you just say data is currently data on inspect, but it's not enough, right? I need the params room. Let's just look at it anyway. There's and there's I'm gonna pass one more thing, which is myself, for us to see. Not self. Okay. All right. Do you guys see anything here? Do we have to refresh it? I sent create message last here, and it goes here, Rails. Who print this broadcast? Okay, they. Okay, let's try again. Connect. Now, morning. So we also have another browser tab somewhere that is subscribing to that one. Morning. Hey, morning. Because this self object is too much, so this is bad.